pull yourself up a chair and join us at the Energy Roundtable.
Welcome to Energy Roundtable, the weekly discussion where my colleague and I, Lisa Katz, talk about the news and notes from the week in energy. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you, Matt. How are you today?
I'm good, and you?
I'm good. Thank you very much.
We have both been swamped, busy in the space, so this might be a shorter version, but it's always good to keep the rhythm. And I'll let you go first. What's your first article?
Okay, it sounds good. So this one is titled Google Goes Green. It's by U-Exec, and basically it's an article that's talking about how many big firms have pledged to reduce their environmental impact, but an effort by Google is also encouraging or engaging their consumers. And so apparently Google Maps will default to the most eco-friendly route, regardless of the distance. It's a feature Google's CEO believes is equivalent to the removal of 200,000 cars from the road a year. The feature is currently operational in the US and will be available in Europe in 2022. They do not say when it's going to be available in Canada, so boo on the article on that. But basically, Google looks to use AI to fine-tune traffic lights and cut delays by 10 to 20%. And other green features will allow travelers to search for hotels and commitments to sustainability and for flights with lower emissions. So I actually give this article a big thumbs up, mainly because, you know, a lot of the articles that we talk about on a weekly basis, they're really talking about the company's individual, you know, piece in terms of their contribution to climate change and to sustainability. And obviously, you know, Google being kind of a tech firm, they're going to have to go to their, you know, their customers. But the fact that they're doing something about this and they're enabling a feature that allows people to be a little more careful, you know, with planning their routes and doing their part, I think is wonderful. So big kudos to Google for thinking out of the box on this one.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time and not the last time those guys over there think outside of the box.
Yeah.
I guess I'm assuming that it's a feature like toll roads that you can toggle on and off. That if you want to go on a less eco-friendly route. But what is interesting is, like, if they can start to, if the system is sophisticated enough to manage multiple cars and really manage, you know, idling and traffic jams, then it starts to get really, really interesting. And then of course, the second layer of discussion is that EVs in particular are really good with AI and you know, self-driving, and then then it really starts to get exciting. And when it's done at the behavioral level, you know, that's where there's a lot of opportunity to really drive emissions out. So that's very cool. Where was the article?
It's from U-Exec. I actually don't normally pull articles from this source, but I happened to actually get something in my inbox and took a look at it, which is just perfect timing for today.
Sure.
But yeah, it's called U-Exec. It's YOU and then EXEC.com.
Google Goes Green is the headline, right?
You got it. That's right.
Cool. My headline, and I only have one today. Like I said, I was swamped. This is kind of a cool announcement, a recent announcement. The DOE, the Department of Energy in the U.S., invests $45 million real American dollars to decarbonize the natural gas power and industrial sectors using carbon capture. So this announcement is funding for 12 projects to advance what they call point source carbon capture. So there are carbon capture technologies that basically just take it out of the air wherever it is. Trees do the same thing, but this is at the source. So where it's, you know, basically the stack. We often talk about being stack chasers, looking for these stacks. This is taking carbon out of the stack. And really what the DOE has acknowledged is that to get to the Biden-Harris administration goals of net zero by 2050 and 100% clean electricity by 2035, you need a portfolio of innovative solutions. And so the current bears mentioning that the current Secretary of Energy is Jennifer Granholm. Hope I pronounced that right. Anyways, I've heard her speak, extremely knowledgeable and really forward thinking in this. And the projects are in three categories: carbon capture R&D, engineering scale testing, and then engineering design for carbon capture systems. So there's a whole myriad of different projects, 12 in total. There's some cement plants. A lot of us know, cement is by definition through the chemical reaction releases a lot of CO2. So yeah, cement is something we need, but it also is a big CO2 emitter. So a lot of it's going to different cement. Petrochemical, there's a Shell site that is looking at designing CO2 capture. And then GE is getting quite a bit of funds, a big American company to really look at the carbon capture behind a lot of their power gen equipment, and then some universities, University of Kentucky as well. So, I mean, on one hand, it doesn't look like a lot of money in the American context, $45 million, but on the flip side, I think it's, this could be seed money that really launches some things in the right direction, and I think both of us would agree that carbon capture is going to be required because we have this option to take it out before or after, right? And I think we have to do both. We can't eliminate it altogether because we need the reliability that carbon-based technologies can give us. So, be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And of course, we're looking into, as a firm, carbon capture, utilization, storage. And as you were talking about being a stack chaser, I couldn't help but think about, you have a CHP system that is fueled with renewable natural gas delivered through, any of the pipeline systems. And then you have carbon capture, utilization, and storage on that, right? And all of a sudden, you're not just carbon neutral, you're carbon negative.
Right.
And so the impact that CCUS technology will have, moving forward with different technologies is just amazing, I think. So, no, it's cool, very cool.
Awesome. You got one more for us?
I have one more. Unfortunately, this is also a bit short, so you and I didn't strategize, I guess, well on this one, but that's okay. So this one is McDonald's to cut emissions by 2050. It is. I just got into or came out of the Toronto Star on October the 5th in the business section, and basically they're suggesting that in the statement, the Chicago company said it would speed up the process of reducing its carbon footprint across restaurants, offices, and its supply chain by setting new targets in collaboration with the nonprofit Science-Based Target Initiative, which, for those who don't know a lot about it, in fact, I didn't know a lot about it, but this article does talk a little bit about it as well. They're basically suggesting that the United Nations scientists say the world's net emissions must fall to zero by 2050 to limit the rise in global temperatures to no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius versus pre-industrial levels. And essentially, McDonald's team, the worldwide team, will be looking to innovate in areas of renewable energy, regenerative farming, circular economy, and sustainable packaging. And they're doing this because they're trying to send a signal to their partners, their investors, suppliers, other brands, the global community, policymakers, that they share the vision like many other organizations who have signed up to the Science-Based Target Initiative. And what I kind of like about it, this particular article, is when we think about, some of the areas they've mentioned here, renewable energy. A lot of us think about, we've been talking about renewable natural gas and hydrogen. Could be solar PV, could be solar thermal. A whole myriad of technologies. Regenerative farming starts to kind of go a level deeper, right? And then sustainable packaging. People think it's like people don't really kind of think too much about that when we're talking about reducing climate change, but that small change can make such a major impact. So I like it because it's showcasing some of the smaller stuff that we can do and how that will have a big impact, and how, again, looking at more individual technologies like RNG or whatever, not that they've mentioned it here in this article, but just under the renewable energy category, they're thinking about it on a broad scale as well. So that's what caught my attention anyways.
All I can say is I'm loving it, right? That's the McDonald's slogan, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, if anybody can do, you mentioned early on, they're trying to progress faster. I mean, if anybody can do things faster, it's McDonald's. So it'd be exciting to see them accelerate. And I'm glad they mentioned farming because, I think there's still beef in their hamburgers somewhere. And, there's a lot of emissions associated with that part of the agricultural industry. And it gets into that lesson, and it's a good reminder of scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. So if you picture your local McDonald's, scope 1 is the natural gas that they're burning on site to, drive the hot oil vats or the heating in the back in the winter. The scope 2 is the electricity that's coming in from the local utility, and scope 3 is all the food that's coming in and all the packaging material and all the stuff, and that's massive for them, right? So to hear that they're tackling that and taking a science-based approach, it'll be interesting to see that I read a case study on them the other day, more on the business side, but how they've really turned themselves around as a company and doubled down on service and product quality. And this looks like it's just the next step on their evolution forward. So great, cool. Good articles today, albeit a little bit shorter, but that's okay. And maybe we'll have a bit of a lengthier discussion around our roundtable, around our face-off, sorry. Mark Charbonneau, our producer extraordinaire, is going to lead us through our face-off.
Hello, guys.
How you doing?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Good.
So I thought we'd go way off base here, and our face-off topic being colonization of Mars. I'm sure you guys have seen all these billionaires flying out to space, and Elon Musk. I've listened to a podcast recently with him on it, because he's so interesting to listen to, and that was one of his things, talking about trying to colonize Mars. So that will be our face-off topic, pros and cons of colonizing Mars, and I will let Matt call the coin toss.
Heads.
Uh-oh, I dropped it.
all that gravity on Earth here.
It's tails. It was tails.
Does that mean
Lisa?
I go?
Yeah, sorry. That means, can you hear me?
Okay, I couldn't even remember what Matt had called.
Yeah.
So this is a hard one, Mark, because this is kind of out of my area of expertise. Not that most of our or a lot of our face-offs are in my area, but I actually had to look this one up and kind of come up with some points. So.
Oh, really?
I'm going to take the con side. So I think that, some of the cons are, first of all, they're completely different living conditions on Mars. It's extremely cold, freezing cold on Mars. And so humans need protective equipment before they go outside. And that's I don't know about you, but I mean, I wouldn't want to be dressing up for, sub temperatures every time I go out there. I like the summer and the warmer months. But anyways, that's besides the point. I think some scientists believe that efficient life on Mars will not be possible. And I think there's just a big risk to human life, including if we need to return from Mars after, being on Mars for a substantial period of time. Having the higher gravitational forces on Earth than what there is on Mars could certainly have some, high health impacts. I think we also need to be thinking about, potentially destroying existing life forms. We talk about existing life forms on Mars. Are we going to be interfering with that? Is that going to create, even potentially some form of a war, or who knows what, right? Like that would look like, because frankly, we don't know what it would look like. It's just a big unknown, right? So, I mean, I think, and as you can tell, I can only prepare so much for this particular topic. I just don't think we're ready to go to Mars at this point. And then, I mean, I guess the other thing that I was thinking about as we were thinking about all of these, Elon Musk's, visiting space and that sort of thing. There's been a lot of controversy around that lately about climate change and, some of the, so again, maybe we're going to get there with some renewable fuels and we can get there with some electrified spaceships, who knows? But I just don't think we're ready to do it. So let's not be doing that now. And I think that the money can be better used to solve the current problems that we have here on planet Earth.
Yeah. Well, actually, Elon Musk said that by 2026, he expects that humans will be landing on Mars and potentially hanging out for a little while there. Not quite colonizing, but anyways.
Well, so one of Lisa's early points were she doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to have to wear protective equipment to go outside. So I don't know what world she's living in, but we're already doing that, Lisa. So we would just normalize that too. COVID would never survive on Mars. That's a bonus, I think. One obvious benefit would be for those who are fans of the Netflix show Away, we would find out what happened to Commander Emma Green and her crew that landed on Mars. I don't know, you guys clearly haven't seen it. It's the Hilary Swank show on Netflix. It's quite good, actually. They go to Mars, and it was never extended for a second season. So they land. We don't know what happens, whether they came back. It's very
really?
very
The show
tragic.
couldn't have been that good, Matt.
No, yeah, I know. Or she was asking for too much money for the second season, or what. But anyways, why to go to Mars? I think humans. We need to be prepared to do big things. We need to be prepared, and historically we have, right? If we didn't do the big thing of sailing across the ocean, set aside all the bad things that all those people did, we wouldn't be here in North America. We wouldn't have expanded. If we didn't do big things like go to the moon, we wouldn't have, beaten the snot out of the Russians in the Cold War. We wouldn't have developed all this new technology, more importantly. And so I think we have to take these big risks as people and as society. And if there's guys who have shitloads of money, can we swear on this show? I forget.
Sure.
You can just bleep it out if not.
We can just bleep it out. That's right. Guys who have lots and lots of money, people who have lots and lots of money, if they want to do stuff that isn't directly making them more money, but it's furthering society, I think kudos to it. We still have beautiful Catholic churches all throughout Europe that were paid for by wealthy benefactors just because they wanted to do something great. And I think going to Mars is like that. I think, it's like any good portfolio. You want to diversify as we as a species continue to multiply and adapt. I think we need different areas. Who knows what kind of metals and resources we're going to find there. But I think the biggest reason is we need to stretch ourselves. Who knows what kind of innovation that we develop as we go to Mars that we can adapt here on Earth. And, I'm a big Star Wars fan, as a lot of people know. So my desire to see that become a reality, that's just the next step towards that. So I think those who bet against Elon Musk in the past didn't do very well. I'm not about to start now. So a lot of good reasons for us to go to Mars.
That's so interesting. Matt, you're a good salesman. I think I gotta give it to Matt. I was with you, Lisa, on not wasting our time and spending our resources on our own planet, but Matt convinced me, I think.
I know. As I was listening to him, I was thinking, man, I'm gonna have to step up my game. I've lost a couple of these now.
Yeah, so I think let's colonize it. Let's do it. That's my thought on that.
The world is changing so dramatically, but it brings a question like who becomes. Do we see a repeat of, okay, we go there, we colonize, and then do we have a Mars crater tea party like we had the Boston Tea Party? Like, do we have a revolution, a Mars revolution? Yeah. They become their own. Like, it's just fascinating to think about what could happen, right? And too many times we just do incremental change, and Mars is not incremental change. So I hope we see it in our collective lifetimes. So yeah. Great, Mark.
Going to, so.
Yeah, it could be. Let's hope so. And for our listeners, Mark always comes up with these face-offs. They're very fun. So, Mark, thank you as always. Lisa, thank you for, as always, doing, albeit slightly more prep than me this time. Thank you for your prep. And we will be together again next week, as always. And to our Canadian listeners, have a very happy Thanksgiving. I think all of us have at least something, but many things typically to be thankful for. So enjoy time with friends and family, and we'll see you all again soon.
Awesome.
Or this is probably better. Right?
Bye, guys.